Temple University researchers looked into the effect of oil dispersants, particularly one called Core Exit 9500A or 9500A on coral reef. So for those of you who don't know, during the Gulf oil spill disaster, Core Exit was used to break up the oil. It's basically a foamy white chemical that breaks it up, and so it can sink to the bottom so you don't see the oil on the top. And the first thing we learned about this is that the workers who didn't have masks when they were part of the cleanup effort, they got terribly sick. They had like similar symptoms like the old Gulf War syndrome, like just viciously, violently sick. They were throwing up, rashes and stuff like that. So we already knew something was up originally, and this doesn't respond well with human beings. But today it goes even further. We learned this, quote, researchers conducted experiments on 3 different species of coral common to the deep waters of the Gulf of Mexico. They tested the effects of both dissolved and non-dissolved oil. They also tested dispersant and oil dispersant mixtures to determine overall toxicity and responses to these pollutants. They say, we photographed the corals and monitored them for signs of stress commonly observed in corals. Corals were also assigned health ratings. Ratings were primarily based on the percentage of the coral that was alive. Here's the really important part. They say, quote, all corals had more severe health declines in response to dispersant alone and the oil dispersant mixtures than in the only oil treatments. Whoa. So do you understand what they're saying there? This is very, very important. They're saying, we tested the coral reefs. When the coral reef was just soaked with oil, yeah, it was fucked up, but more of it was alive and functioning and doing okay than the coral reef that was soaked with the oil dispersant, the Core Exit 9500A. And they say when you mix together the oil and the Core Exit 9500A, that also fucks up the coral more than the oil alone. So in other words, if they didn't use the dispersant, the oil spill would have been better for the environment. Obviously still not good. It's better to have no oil spill whatsoever, right? But they're saying that in the so-called cleanup effort, they actually made it worse. And they go on to explain that that's because they had done testing with Core Exit in shallower waters, not in deeper waters like that, where the pressure's different and the temperature of the water is different. And now they realize it absolutely destroys coral reef. And by the way, that greatly affects all the other marine biology in the region. That makes it so that every other fish in the area, they're screwed. Every other living organism there, they're screwed, because when you fuck the coral reefs up, you fuck them up. So this was an even bigger disaster than we thought it was originally. And it's absolutely heartbreaking. And look, man, the takeaway is obvious. Apart from just doing better, more efficient regulation and actually strictly and rigidly enforcing that regulation, it's time to get off the oil and get off the natural gas and get off the fossil fuels, man. I know everybody, pie in the sky, liberal ideology. No, we need to do it eventually for the survival of the fucking species. You might not realize that, but that's true. And we have the capability. We could do solar, we could do wind, we can do geothermal, we can do thorium, we could all these different kinds of technologies. We just need to invest the right way. If we can spend enough money to get to the fucking moon in just a few years when we did it, why can't we spend enough money to get off of fossil fuels? We can do it. But the oil companies have bought the government, and that's what's holding us back.